Welcome to HP Tuner's GM Gen 5 Training Part 46. In this training module, we're going to be exploring how to dial in our airflow correlation tables so that we don't get a P0068 code thrown and that we can keep the failsafe protection feature enabled on our Gen 5 ECMs so that we don't have to worry about a runaway throttle situation. We have a lot to cover. Let's jump in so we can check this out. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at our airflow correlation calibration within this tutorial. Now this is going to be specifically relating to our P0068 DTC code that can be thrown if we get in a situation where we're having more throttle angle opening past a certain airflow, mass airflow reading, or a certain map pressure range. So this is going to essentially be a checksum to make sure that we don't have a throttle runaway situation. Now GM has put this in place for that exact reason so that we don't have to worry about going in and the drive-by-wire system having some kind of a problem. All of a sudden the throttle opens too much and then we get a runaway throttle, we crash the vehicle. All bad things will happen with that. So we want to make sure we're retaining this whenever possible. We'll talk about some situations where we have to disable this, but we can tune this and make it work for our advantage in keeping this failsafe in place. Now you're going to definitely have to jump into these tables if you're naturally aspirated, so an LT1, L83, L86 engine, and you're going to be putting on a turbocharger or supercharger. In that situation, we're going to be having a lot more airflow past the throttle plate or a given throttle opening, and it can throw this P0068. If it's factory force induction, so a Z06 or a ZL1, we typically don't have to touch the tables, but you might have to go in and update some things, so this still may pertain to you, but more chances of a P0068 code being thrown for a naturally aspirated engine that's moving into a force induction type of situation. So the first thing I want to do here is jump in and find our airflow correlation tables that we can actually edit and work with. We'll talk about what they mean, and then we'll talk about how we can populate them correctly with log data from the VCM scanner from our actual vehicle. So let's jump in and take a look. Now I'm working with my 2018 Yukon Denali calibration file here. Any Gen 5 file will work for following along with the tutorial. First things first, we're going to move up in here to our engine diag section. Now under engine diag, we're going to go from general and move across here into airflow. Now in airflow here, we have all kinds of things that we can start to set thresholds for to disable certain codes from being thrown. We can take a look, for example, here that we have our throttle pressure sensor. This is a P2101 DTC code. So this is going to be the code that could be tripped or thrown. This is going to be a threshold that it has to exceed. If we raise these thresholds, it'll make it harder for it to throw that particular code. Now that's not the interest of this specific tutorial. We're looking for the airflow correlation range right here. So we have all these different tables and we have an enable RPM. This is going to be where it starts its test. Now what's going on here? When we have a certain amount of desired mass airflow and a certain amount of desired map pressure, we know that drives the drive-by-wire system to open the throttle plate to reach that certain level of mass airflow and map desired pressure ranges or flow ranges. So we're going to be opening up the throttle plate. What it's going to do is then take a look at the throttle movement, take a look at the actual pressure from the map sensor, the actual airflow amount coming from the mass airflow sensor reading, and if we're exceeding how much the throttle plate versus flow or pressure relationship is going to be, it can go into a fail-safe mode where it shuts the throttle down. The car goes into what's called reduce engine power and it throws a P0068. We want to make sure that the tables here are jiving for the airflow or the map pressure that we might be seeing for our particular engine. So again, if you're factory force induction, Z06, ZL1, you most likely aren't going to have to touch these tables. But if you're naturally aspirated, you most likely will have to touch these tables in order to make sure things are in line, because at a given RPM, for example, this table here is max airflow versus RPM. At a given RPM, if we're flowing a lot more air into the engine, we'll have a lot more air mass coming in. And if we're exceeding what it's showing here in the table, it can then trigger the P0068 and put us into rep or reduced engine power mode and trigger this DTC from being, trigger the DTC to illuminate and to go into this fault condition and to start to shut the throttle down. Now, let's go in here and take a look first at our max airflow versus RPM table. This table, as I was just mentioning, is going to be based on engine speed. We can see here it goes from 600 all the way to 7,000 RPM. Now the units are in grams per second. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.